And hallucinations are kind of fun because you want to sort of understand like why would this be the case? Like what's going on when this happens? And the way I would sort of think about this for us is that it's the what of the hallucination can be several, right? There could be contradictions in a sentence it produces. There could be factual hallucinations, right? There could be prompt contradictions. You might have asked it some things that would cause it to hallucinate, right? Or there could be nonsensical input that's on it. All of these. See, the thing is, it's not going to stop and say like, well, now it's getting to a point where you can sort of say like, when you're asking it to like, ask it to do some criminal activity for you, it'll push back, right? Because there's been some additional stuff added on top that when they see criminal type of stuff, they can sort of say like, let's stop you from doing that. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. So these are the sort of the types of hallucinations that can happen. And the thing that's interesting is like, Jan, when you sort of saw your colleagues' bios, on first blush, you said, well, these don't look right, but could they have been right? Could they have gone to that university? Were they like?
No, I did it for myself,
okay.
And I went to University of Virginia, and I've never visited University of Virginia.
But could you, in a different life, have gone to University of Virginia? I'm just wondering. So the thing about hallucinations is that it's trying to know everything it knows about Jan and says, given what I know about Jan from my corpus, right? I'm going to try to predict what exists about Jan and come up with some facts. Okay, and then so we have to sort of think about this in two ways. One is the what, the why. Right, the why is actually data quality. This is actually a really important question for us. That do we choose to put our data out in the web or not? If your data isn't out in the web, it's going to be hallucinating about you. If there's lots of data about you in the web, it's going to hallucinate less about you. Okay, so there's a data quality, right? The generation model it's using, right? You might have seen or heard about things called temperature, or even in Bing, there's like a creative mode. Okay, so like, is this a matter of like how wide do you want the precision of the system for it to be? Okay, and then also like the input context. And I love this example. What if I ask it the question, can a cat speak English? What's the answer going to be? Most of the times.
No.
No. What would be right?
In a movie?
That?
In a movie?
In a movie? Which movie? Which cat is known to speak English a lot?
Garfield.
Garfield.
Yeah.
Right. So the input context matters, right? If you have an intention of an input context that's Garfield, and it comes back to you and says no, right? Because that's the answer, right? For what cats are, it won't be. But if you said like, I'm thinking about a cat that can speak English in a movie, it can come back to you with a potential thing. So the why, again, data quality is the biggest thing, right? This is statistics, right? And this is user input, okay? And what you do, all right? And then finally, the ways we can minimize hallucination, right? One is the prompt engineering about preciseness. Right. The second is sort of what we call sort of multi-shot prompting, which is basically like don't ask it one big thing, ask it in steps, as Mitchell has shown. Like ask it step by step by step, as you would for an RA starting up with you. You wouldn't get the RA to write me a paper to say, okay, let's go and create an outline first. What should be the outline? Well, it should be those elements, right? So multi-shot prompting can help you, right? And then finally, the temperature you set for the models, okay? But this is a real thing. What we're seeing though is that even across all these systems, we are now setting up where hallucinations keep going down. So 4 is less hallucinatory than 3.5, then 3.0. And then, as we'll talk about, like these systems keep getting better and better and better, and so we'll see where that leads us. Okay, so with that, I'm going to actually like skip through a bunch of these things and let's get into some fun.
Karim, while you're looking at that, can I repeat a question that was in the chat? Are there any intuitive examples of the distinction between word guessing and word matching? And could you talk a little bit more about why there might be variability in output when given identical prompts? Perhaps that's related to data quality.
Yeah, so basically, word is guessing a word, but then goes back and says, could this word, could this sort of a cluster actually exist somewhere else in my text, right? So it makes a prediction of the guess, right? That's the first bit, and then it goes back and says, in my corpus, do these two words come together or not? Okay, and then the reason why even with the same prompt you get different results is just probability, right? It's basically a statistical model, right? And that's what's driving the probability. And as you know, in a wide enough data set with lots of stuff, it's never going to be. So it's not designed for precision; it's designed for probability.
Just a thought, I don't know if this is considered a hallucination, but last week in Mitch's seminar, we did a math problem. And so I was intrigued and I went home and asked ChatGPT to do my math homework and realized that it can't multiply because I think it's like, using LLMs and it's not actually doing a calculation.
Yeah.
And so then I asked it to do it in R. And instead of actually running the code, it just spit out the same answer that it gave me before, which was incorrect. And so I was also like, okay, I won't be able to do my math homework, but I think.
Oh yeah, I think we'll talk a little bit about the plugins that exist, and if you can add a Wolfram plugin or a code interpreter plugin, and it does all the math for you.
That's true.
Right, so that's already a solved problem.
And recall it did do some math when we were together.
That's true, yes.
And so again, it's not a math system; it's a language system.
Yeah.
Right, but with a code interpreter now, what you can see is that it can do math at scale. And what you could do is sometimes it gets stuck. Right, so you just have to refresh, start the system again, and say, write me R code to do X, Y, Z. It can do that for you really well, and then you can put that in.